Howard Dean wrote earlier today, and it was really getting sent around by everybody. On Twitter, he wrote, Superdelegates don't, quote, represent people. I'm not elected by anyone. I'll do what I think is right for the country. Okay, so he's a superdelegate from the state of Vermont, which Bernie Sanders, I believe, won by 68 points?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. So when they say, so are you going to vote for Bernie Sanders? And remember, Howard Dean used to be liberal. Remember back in the day, he was the liberal alternative to John Kerry in 2004.
He was his famous line was, "I'm from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party,"
which was a great line.
And back then, he wasn't just liberal; he was the crazy one.
He was
like,
the
you're going to support Howard Dean?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, make your statement, and then eventually go for one of the reasonable electable candidates.
Right. And these days, he's more of a lobbyist / pundit in Washington.
He's an insurance lobbyist.
Yeah. So the virus is unfortunately. Seems to have infected him. I'm sure he'll be outraged if we, hears that. Go ahead and get outraged.
By the way, I retweeted that, and just what the only comment I had on was "holy fuck," and I retweeted that. He blocked me. Glenn Greenwald retweeted it. Blocked Glenn Greenwald.
For retweeting him, he blocks people?
He blocked me for retweeting that.
Well, you wrote "holy fuck," but I don't know what Greenwald wrote, right?
I mean, I could have meant "holy fuck." I agree with him. He didn't know how I meant it.
I'm pretty sure that's not the reaction.
Holy fuck, superdelegates, yay. Right. Suppress the will of the people. Who cares about voting? We're Democrats. So what he's basically saying there, Cenk, is that I'm from the Democratic Party and I don't care what the voters want. That's what he's saying. I represent no one.
In essence, though, he's actually saying, and it's unfortunately true today, that he's from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Back then, he meant it as I'm the liberal, I'm progressive. Yeah. Now, the Democratic Party, represented by people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who are working with Republicans to make sure payday lenders can charge you more than 300% interest rate, which used to be called loan sharking and was illegal. Now, it's become legalized, and the bribery's become legalized. So that's the Democratic Party of today in a lot of ways. Bernie Sanders is an enormous outlier, and the fact that he has challenged that party system and done as well as he has outrages a lot of people in the party. They're like, what is wrong with you? The reason they dislike him more is because he's exposing who they really are, right? So that's why Howard Dean is a little prickly about this, and he says, no, the will of the people of Vermont. I don't care about that. I'm a superdelegate. And as a superdelegate, I don't represent the people. I represent whatever the hell I want.
I would have typed, I don't represent anyone. Oh shit, that's true. But instead he kept going with the tweet. That should bother you as a person who used to get elected to represent people. If you don't represent anyone, and yet you have the power of 10,000 voters, each superdelegate has the same power as 10,000 regular voters, that's a problem. Even Nancy Pelosi says, and has been saying for a number of years, to her credit, we need to get rid of the system. There's no argument for keeping that system other than I want the powers that be to be able to stop insurgent candidates from winning. That's the only justification. There's no democratic justification, either in terms of the sort of philosophical underpinnings of the Democratic Party or the philosophical underpinnings of democracy itself. No one can justify the superdelegate system continuing. Even the Republicans don't have superdelegates.
So, and Howard Dean had the balls, right? And to pardon my Tantrino or whatever her name is, but the balls.
Perina or whatever her name is from Fox.
Centauros?
No, the one who appears on the weekends.
So she said. So he tweeted out to someone who came at him about this. He said, "Hey, how about a little tolerance for people with different points of view? Just because I have a different point of view doesn't mean I'm a sellout." And of course, immediately people are like, no, you're a sellout because you're now a lobbyist for the industry. What are you talking? That's why you're a sellout because you're a fucking sellout. You're not a sellout because we disagree with you. You're a sellout because you fucking sold out. You used to be for single payer, and now you're not. What changed? You're now a lobbyist for the insurance industry. That's why you're a sellout. God damn it. Why, when Democrats talk to other Democrats like they're low information voters, drives me fucking crazy.
And it's ironic because they're the ones who are taking advantage of low information voters.
Yes.
Right? And so Howard Dean here says, well, we're allowed to disagree, but Howard, we're not disagreeing about policy issues. We're disagreeing on whether superdelegates should get to overrule the opinion of the voters. I mean, the amazing thing is in the Democratic Party, that's a legitimate argument. as John pointed out, it's not even an argument in the Republican Party. They're like, I mean, that's a bridge too far.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we got
the establishment just pick the candidate.
pick the candidate.
Just put your whole, not just thumb, but hand, arm, your whole body on the scale of and go, voters, I'm just going to have this giant block of superdelegates, and we're just all going to go to the politician who's going to, grease us more.
Yeah.
And that's not a legitimate argument to have, right? And if you want to be on that side of the argument, okay, but then you shouldn't be surprised that people are mad about that. Are you really surprised?
Yeah, and I mean, I sort of, this is obvious, but I think maybe it deserves being stated again. One of two things will happen. Either the superdelegates will go along with what the actual elected delegates will do, in which case they're unnecessary. They're simply mimicking what the actual elected delegates do, or they won't, and that's a disaster. So in the one case, they can't be allowed to continue, and in the other case, there's no reason for them to continue.
That's right.
And even if for the next 1,000 years they always vote with the people, it still will always make a lot of people feel like, well, God, at any time they could vote the other way. It just makes you unnecessarily feel like your democracy could be overturned.
So let me add one more wrinkle to this. That's so important. And I got to double down on what John said. The best case scenario is that they're irrelevant, right? And if your best case scenario is that they're irrelevant, then why have them? The whole point of having the superdelegates is to circumvent democracy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the whole point of it. So you can have a different opinion about that, Howard, but but understand where you stand. Don't lie to people about it. You're the one trying to trick low information voters by saying, "Oh, we just have different opinions about democracy. You're for it, I'm against it." Right?
Well, one of the things they say, one of the reasons that some people try to give for why these people should have this special power is that they've served the party for a long time, so they deserve to have influence. All they have is influence. They're governors and senators and former presidents. That's their currency. They have influence. They can call press conferences. They can talk to any influential person in their state that they want. They are already showered in influence. And by the way, they have a vote. They can go in and they can caucus, or they can vote in a primary the same as everyone else. That's what influence is. And they're also, by the way, almost universally incredibly rich people. They have all different sorts of influence. I can't even count the number of different influences they have.
John, you're going to force me to make more points, okay? Number one, it's such a great point by John. They also get a vote. But in essence, what they're saying here is, come on, let's be honest. My vote should count more than your vote, right? I'm a powerful person. You're just a citizen. So what am I going to do, go vote in Vermont like any other citizen? No, I'm powerful.
Yes.
My vote should count a lot more. And then think about that. The Democratic Party has decided that the powerful aren't powerful enough.
Yeah.
Let's give them even more advantages. Let's take their vote, have it worth so many more of your votes. Can you imagine anything more undemocratic than that? Okay, now, finally, the point I was going to make is you're wondering, or maybe some of you are, why are all of these politicians and the pundits I see on TV that used to be liberal but now are supporting the more conservative candidate, like what's going on here? Why are they all supporting Hillary Clinton? I'll tell you why. Because they all want a job. Okay, now, it's not just that, right? And
it's like that's how when I don't disagree with you. It's because I don't want to lose my job.
So luckily here, we're all allowed to disagree.
No, we're not.
Okay,
no, we're not.
Wait a minute. That's ironic. Okay. All right. So some of them, I'm sure, earnestly believe that Hillary Clinton is the more pragmatic candidate, and there are real reasons to be for Hillary Clinton. They might like her policy on guns better, yada, yada. It's certainly possible, right? Some of them might say, hey, wouldn't it be great if we broke the glass ceiling for women? And they think that that's a very important historical mark, et cetera. So I'm not discounting all of them at all, right? But some of them think, well, if she's in power and I was good to her, maybe I get a cabinet position.
Yeah.
Maybe I get this. Maybe I get
ambassadorship.
that. Right? Exactly. And if you're one of the pundits, if they like you, well, you're going to get access. And if you get access, maybe you get more stories. You make it on air more. You get a book, right? All these things matter. Or maybe, golly gee, maybe she'll put me in the government. Maybe I'll get to be a spokesperson. So they know Bernie Sanders isn't going to do them those favors. Mm-hmm. The only person who can do them those kind of quasi-corrupt favors, and she's not more corrupt than anybody else. That's usually how the system works. That's part of why we, have issues with the system, right? Certainly every Republican would do that, almost every Democrat, but Bernie Sanders would do that. Yeah. But he's at a disadvantage because since he's not going to grease them with favors, they got no reason to support him. Whereas the other side, if you don't support her and she wins, you're going to get punished. But if you do support her and she wins, you might get a job or you might get other favors.
You can. Really fast. You can cross Bernie by supporting Hillary, and Bernie will probably still consider you because he would bring people in based on the merit, whereas she would be vindictive. So you actually, it's both ways you lose by supporting Bernie.
That's exactly right. So that is at least a huge part of the explanation as to why almost all the superdelegates go to Hillary Clinton, because they care about the consequences.